Swab, is that you? Suave?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, it's me. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you
Oh,
jumping
I
in
have
for
echo.
co-commentating duties, or are you
Just
going to be actually be racing?
I'm not racing today. Ford is set, but
The
yeah.
what's a set?
We have Manuel, Railgun, and rebuilds for Ford.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that there'd be something close to an actual fight for the manufacturers championship today, but we have 3 Fords and only 2 Chevys, and the 2 Chevys we have are the slower of the Chevys, so any hope that we had for an interesting fight in the manufacturers championship is very much dead and in the water. So,
The slower
yeah, there's
Chevys. What do you mean? You got tempered and breezy. Oh wait, are we missing Maze? Yeah, we're missing
yes,
Maze.
and Maze is typically faster than both Breezy and Tempered, so and he's not here, so eh.
Yeah. It might be just literally by existing we get the championship, but it is
Yeah,
what
it
it is.
seems to be the case, especially with how tiny and small the field is. Dude, I kind of wish that X League didn't weren't so ridiculously stringent with their rules with teams and all this stuff, because you keep ending up with races like this where there could be other people here, but because everything is so heavily focused on teams that you aren't on, it just kind of screws everything over.
I
And
mean, a lot of the hype was in the
it's
beginning
not
of
my
the
series.
season. Toward the end, it seems to have fallen off ever since mid-season break.
I mean, to be fair, it's been very obvious where everyone's pace was, and there's not really been any effort to like balance. I mean, I think the cars are probably very well balanced amongst themselves, but there's the driver skill level is all over the place, and I don't feel like there's been any effort to try and make the drivers actually racing closer with each other. But I mean,
I
if the
mean,
series is legitimately based off of, more driver skill than just close racing, I can't fault them for that. That is not only their decision, it's a very reasonable decision to make and have.
I guess, but like there's been people moving up, but there hasn't been people moving down. So you just have a bunch of these new faster people, and then you have like kind of the old guard in a sense. Like,
I
I don't know.
I have a handful of friends who I've kind of wanted to suggest this series to, but the big problem is that with X League being they have this very complicated team system, and it just makes it very hard for me to even communicate. I can barely follow how the whole team signing up thing is, and how the hell am I supposed to sell it to someone else? And the other thing is the whole they need to have fucking sync up access permissions to your console or your PC to see all your telemetry, and I would not do that, and I have other friends who would not be willing to sync shit like that up either. So, but like I don't know. Eh, I hope things go a little bit better going forward. How long of a break is X League likely going to be on once this season's over?
It seems like a week or so, but unless we have a big recruiting push, I'm not sure how we're gonna be dealing with this.
I mean, honestly, I'll be 100% honest. I think the easiest way to do it would be, at least in the Porsche Cup level, just delete the whole manufacturer and team championship thing and just let everyone race for the points and race to showcase, their ability. I really think that would help more than anything else.
Mm, yeah, but I don't know.
I can't say anything for GT3 though, because that's much different. The GT3 thing in general cons to a radically different kind of driver and a radically different type of manager. But
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. It just like a lot of teams are good from the outset, but then a lot of teams kind of fell off or weren't there in the beginning or aren't there now. So it's just like all over the place. But yeah, Cracks, I know what you're talking about. What contributed to 10 different race winners. I mean, yeah, at least PCS was exciting enough, but like once they hit GT, there's not like big trades or anything, you know, pretty much who's there. And some people just fizzled out. Some managers fizzled out too. And, like whatever happened to Dodge, I won. I can't even guess to know.
Well, it's neither here or there, and it is Monaco's series anyway, so it's not my place to say. Anyways, I will go ahead and let you go because I need to start up this broadcast proper. Technically, the stream's been running for a bit, so I need to start up the broadcast proper here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's only 8 people. Dude, I think we had more people last night than we are going to have tonight. What the hell?
No, I think we have more people now. Or no, half of
We had
us are
9
safety
people
car
last
or
night.
spectator.
Yeah, we had 9 people last night racing. We have 8 right now. All right.
Oh,
Well,
wait,
anyways,
wait, is group 3? What's it called?
I don't know what
the
group 3
spectator
is.
channel?
I don't know what group 3 is. All I know is that I have readied up for spectate, and that's all that matters. All right. I will let you go. I need to start this broadcast proper here. Okay.
All right.
Come on. There we are. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host for today's broadcast, Insanely at 13, as we are preparing to get underway here for the last race for the GT3 Pro Championship here for the X League. It's going to be a small field today, and with only 2 Chevrolets showing up, and they're 2 of the slower Chevrolet drivers versus 3 Fords showing up, and they are by far and away, for the 4th week in a row, way faster than the rest of the field. The Fords pretty much by default have won the Manufacturers' Championship. There's not really any kind of drama to watch today. It's really just going to be a question of, are the Ford drivers going to fight amongst themselves for the race win to wrap up the season? They are, unless something absolutely bonkers happens, they are all but guaranteed to win tonight, and they will have 8 wins over a 12-race season. So, while it was a little bit closer early on in the year, the last 4 races, the Fords have just been absolutely destroying everything else. There's been really not a lot of outright parity showing up there. So the question is going to be, are the Ford drivers actually going to fight amongst each other for the race win? It is car rebuilds in the 6, Manuel Pedro in the 55, and Les Relga in the 67, starting in the top 3. Matthews is the only Ferrari representative today. He's going to be starting in the 4th position. Then you'll have Breezy Rain and Tempered Ship, your 2 Chevrolet representatives in the number 17 and 21 machine. After that will be Rebirth Quint in the Lone Dodge, and Asian Diesel in the Lone Aston Martin entry. You'll see the field filter on down into the backstretch chicane here. Nope. And that is XR Monaco going by there, doing some safety car things. We also have Weiser, who pulled off a podium result in last night's Porsche Cup race. He is also doing safety car. Not sure why we need to have 2 different safety cars for tonight's event, but that does seem to be the case that we are in right now. Again, it's going to be a relatively small field, only 8 drivers. The big question, how aggressively are the Ford drivers going to fight amongst themselves tonight for the event? Again, in the standings, The championship has basically been locked up. Second place has basically been locked up. Manuel Pedro just went way off circuit there. Second place has been locked up. Third place has been locked up. Breezy Rain, who is fourth, he is 15 points out from Indy El Shadow in the championship, so Breezy Rain might be able to leapfrog Indy El Shadow if he gets a little bit fortunate here. If that ends up being the case, that would be significant for him. Real quickly, he would need to earn 15 points, so if he can finish 9th, he'll earn that, but we only have 8 drivers, so Breezy Rain, pretty much by default, by starting this race, should walk out of this season 3rd in the championship. And we'll get a small payout from that as the field doubles up as they come out of the final corner, and we prepare to take the green flag here at Yas Marina. We are underway, and immediately we're looking at Matthews looking at the outside as they come down to turn 1, and here they are, 3 wide nearly for the Fords, but it will be the 6 who leads. The 55 pulls up around the outside, a little bit of contact between them. The Ferrari is sliding out of control, barely able to keep it on track. No problems for the Fords to keep it 1, 2, 3 as they go through turns 1, 2, 3, and 4 now. Pedro slides just a little bit there. Now under threat from Les Railgun. Railgun, your season champion, muscling his way alongside Manuel Pedro. Car rebuilds trying to open the gap up ahead of them. So we saw a little bit of controversy and accidents from the Ford camp at Watkins Glen. What should have been an easy 1, 2, 3 finish fell down to just being a 1, 2 finish there. But Railgun and Pedro, if they can get their fighting resolved nice and early, they won't have to worry about that being an issue again. Tempered Chip and Cars Matthew having a bit of a fight there for a 4th spot right now. Down the back straightaway this time by. The second back straightaway into this heavy braking zone. And now Railgun putting Rebuilt under pressure here. A little bit of contact, and you see Rebuilt gets the rear of the car outside. Was just a bit squirrely through there. This section here is where the Ford GT really stands out. A very downforce and handling focused part of the circuit, and that is where the Ford GT really shines. Coming out of the hotel section. Ooh, wow, Manuel Pedro just licks the outside wall. So does Tempered Chip there, just licks it with that right rear quarter panel. And now they come down through the final corner, and they have completed their first racing lap. Already the gap of about 2 seconds between the leader and the highest non-Ford GT right now. Railgun pulls up right behind Car Rebuilds. Looks to the inside, but he's not really close enough to do anything with it right now. He'll elect to just stay in line behind as they come out of that not quite hairpin, and now down the first of the 2 back straightaways again. So maximum draft in favor of Les Railgun this time by. Pedro hanging on in 3rd position. But while Pedro had a respectable qualifying run, doesn't seem to have quite the outright pace that Rebuilds and Railgun has at the moment. Through the chicane between the 2 back straightaways. Not a great run through by either Rebuilds or Railgun, but Railgun is now under threat from Pedro. Matthews has already pulled away from the Chevrolet of Tempered Chip. Breezy Rain has moved to 6. Agent Diesel has gotten ahead of Rebirth Quint farther back there. Now it looks like Agent Diesel's trying to fight his way by Breezy Rain as well. Side by side, Aston Martin and Chevrolet. Oh, the dodge of Rebirth Quint hits the inside wall back there. These two are still going at it, and the Aston forces the Chevy a little bit wide through there. Under the hotel. And they get going once more now. Ooh, again! Rebirth Quint licks the inside wall, but that's it. That's all. Not enough to really cause any catastrophic issues to him. Meanwhile, our top 3 continue to pull away. On the start of our 3rd racing lap, they have already pulled 2.5 seconds on Cars Matthews, our highest Ferrari entrant today. So our Ford GT drivers seem to be spreading out just a little bit now. They've kind of figured out how to stop fighting amongst themselves for the moment. So real quickly, let's look at the tire choices of everyone in the field. Car rebuilds, he is at 17% on his tires right now. Les Railgun, your season champion, he is at 15%. So he's a little bit better on tires than Manuel Pedro here in third. He is at 18% on tires. So Pedro seems to be a little bit slower and dealing with a lot more issue when it comes to tire life right now. So there may be a chance that we'll see Les Railgun run car rebuilds down in the closing moments here. But right now, well, in the closing moments not of the race itself necessarily, but of the closing moments in the stint. But for right now, most of the battling has already resolved. There are pretty large gaps throughout the entire field, considering that we're not even a full handful of laps into this race yet. From the pace car's perspective, as you can see, the field firing it off through the final corners right now. Minder, Car Matthews, Rain in fourth position. He's at 22% tire wear already. He is doing a good enough job keeping up with the Fords. They've not absolutely left him in the dust like they have the rest of the field. But Cars Matthews obviously does not have the pace to actually take the fight to that championship team right now. Railgun is now completely fallen out of Car Rebuild's draft at the moment, but he is still in the position where he can be pressured by Manuel Pedro here. A little bit later, we'll take a look at time penalties once everyone has, well, actually, honestly, everyone's kind of sorted themselves out now. Let's go ahead and look at the time penalties now. Manuel Pedro, 7/10 of a second. Cars Matthews, 1.3 seconds. Tempered Chip, 7/10. No one else has time penalties, though. So the two Chevrolet, oh, Les Railgun's now earned a half-second penalty at this stage, and Weaver Quinn also is at 9/10. But the Chevys have now caught each other on the circuit. Breezy Rain runs right behind Tempered Chip at the moment. Again, Breezy Rain doesn't have to do anything crazy as long as he's already started this race. And by virtue of starting this race, he's guaranteed at least an 8th place finish, with Indy El Shadow having not shown up for tonight's event. Indy El Shadow will not take home any points. Breezy Rain is taking more than the minimum points needed to pass Indy El Shadow for third of the championship. So Breezy Rain will come home third in Drivers' Championship at the end of the season. There will actually be 2 Chevy drivers coming home in the top 3 in points at the end of the year at that. Railgun and Manuel Pedro on top of each other. Looks like Car Rebuilds may have backed off just a little bit in pace here. That gap he was opening up is gone. He's at 29% tires right now. We looked at Les Railgun in second, though. He is at 29% as well. And then Manuel Pedro is at 30%. See Agent Diesel hanging out back there, but he doesn't seem to be close enough to do anything to the Chevys. It does feel that this race, more than any of the others we've seen, is very heavily dictated by what car you're in, more than what you can do here. It does look like most of the field is running on relatively similar tire strats, I believe. I think everyone has elected to start this race on the soft tire, actually, by the looks of it. Yeah, everyone elected to start on the soft tires for their first stint, so we're likely going to see the entire field pitting at about the same time, around lap 8 or 9. Reminder, we have seen in some, not all, but some of the races, the GT3 cars can go about a lap longer on their tires than what the Porsche Cup cars can. So last night, the Porsche Cup drivers, they could go 8 laps on a set of tires, 8 racing laps on a set of tires. If you were to mimic that today, we'd be seeing these drivers pitting at the end of lap 9. No, 8 racing laps plus the 1 pace lap. If you wanted to make it a 5-stop affair and go all softs all the way through, you pit on lap 9, pit on lap 17, pit on lap 25, and then pit on lap 33. Then again, on lap 41, you'd be good with a little bit of extra tire life at the end that you could, shift the numbers with. But the winning strategy last night had been medium tires on a 4-stop strategy all the way through and just don't push the tires. But no one is running the medium strategy that brought home the win last night. And also no one is running the medium strategy that brought home second place last night, interestingly enough. So everyone is locked into at least a 4-stop strategy, if not a 5-stop strategy here, it would appear. The car rebuilds is easily your leader right now. Railgun and Manuel Pedro have not been able to do anything to him. Car Matthews stays on the periphery of these 4 GTs. If they get into some shenanigans, Matthews could steal a podium off of them. Try to salvage some kind of result for the Ferrari entrance. Yeah, already, car rebuilds is polling by a bit more than a second to lap on Breezy Rain in 5th place right now. Again, where it's, a little bit of hit there. Railgun broke early and Pedro got right into his rear. Looks like it didn't really compromise them too badly though. But they do continue to bleed a bit of time to rebuilds. So if Railgun and Pedro are going to spend all their time fighting, rebuilds is easily going to walk off with this win here. Oh, Pedro gets right to Railgun's left rear quarter panel. Can't make the move stick, but he got right there on him. Okay, so we're at the end of lap 8 now. If anyone feels unconfident with their tire life, they'll be pitting this time by. Does anyone elect to pit on this circuit, or is everyone going to push it out one more lap? Again, lap 9 is when you want to make your first pit stop, ideally. Car rebuild stays out, Railgun stays out, Pedro stays out, Matthews stays out. A little bit farther back, we look at the Chevy duo of Breezy and Tempered Ship. Swap for position in the final corner, but they're both going to stay out. Agent Diesel stays out, Rebirth Quint stays out. So yeah, everyone's going to go 9 laps on the tires. So while we had a lot of tire strategies going on last night, everyone, at least early on, is locked into the exact same strategy at the moment here. Car rebuilds. He is at the 43% mark on his tires. Railgun is at 42%. Manuel Pedro, 46%. Car Matthews, 47%. Breezy Rain, 46%, Tempered Ship, 47%. I'm not even going to bother looking at the rest of the field. So at first I thought that everyone was on softs, but it does not appear that everyone's on softs. I think it's more likely that everyone is running the exact same medium tire strategy right now. So if everyone's on the medium tires, then we'll likely be seeing people push out to lap 12 or 13. That number might be slightly harder to make. Not impossible, just slightly harder. Manuel Pedro has gotten by Les Railgun, though. So teammate on teammate action going on here for second and third. And Carr Matthews runs close enough that if these two get into it with each other, he will be right in the position to capitalize and squeeze by here. We're going to go ahead and take a Twitch-mandated ad break and ride on board for a flying lap with Les Railgun. We'll be back momentarily here at Yas Marina. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here at Yas Marina. Carr Matthews is pitting at the end of his 10th lap, so he did not push his medium tires nearly as far as he could have, but I wonder, is Carr Matthews going to try and replicate the four-stop strategy that brought home the win last night, just never push the medium tires to the point where they are heavily worn out? Looking at car rebuilds, he's at 54% right now. He still has plenty enough fuel in the tank to go for a few more laps. Manuel Pedro also has quite a bit of fuel still in the car. What of Les Railgun? Also, they all have enough fuel to stay out for a few more laps. I imagine these drivers will be considering the normal three-stop strategy. Pit on lap 13, pit on lap 25, then pit on lap 37. And honestly, if you really wanted to, yeah, it's a nice three-stop strategy. Honestly, if you really wanted to, you could potentially shorten one of those up if you desired. 13, 25, 37, yeah, and then you could throw on, you'd have 10 laps to the end on that. And if you really, really wanted to push, if you could steal an extra lap somewhere, you could potentially throw on softs at the very end, but I don't think the benefit for doing that would be anywhere near worth it. But Carr Matthews jumped off a little early, and I think Carr Matthews might try the four-stop strategy, all medium tires all the way through. And the good news for Carr Matthews, he is running in cleaner. He was basically running right behind the four GTs, just a little bit off of them in terms of pace, and while he will have to make an entire extra pit stop, he might not have to deal with as much tire fall off. But we'll see, because here's the thing, if the four GTs like to pit this lap, then they will be covering him off, covering that strategy off, and they will also be on that four-stop strategy. But no, it looks like Cars and Railgun will stay out, but Pedro is going to pit. So Pedro says he's had enough on these tires. 61, 62% in the rears. So now the question is going to be, where is Manuel Pedro and Cars Matthews going to be in relation to each other? Breezy Rain and Temper Chip both pit. Aging Diesel is going to pit as well now. So Cars Matthews is still going to have a nice, clean amount of track ahead. He pitted 1 lap earlier than a big chunk of his field. Rebirth Quint actually stayed out another lap, though. Manuel Pedro just now going through turn 1. I think he's still going to be well clear of Car Matthews here. Pedro's still in pit road there. You can see the Ford GT of Manuel Pedro coming out of the pit lane exit there, but he's still just far enough ahead. No, he's going to be just behind, actually. Pedro was not the speed in time, and Matthews is briefly ahead. He's already got nice warmed-up tires, but he went wide, got a little bit jump-scared by the Ford GT's presence, and Pedro goes right back by, but then leaves the corner up and slams the door on Pedro there. So some Ford versus Ferrari shenanigans for what is right now potentially poised to be the last stop, the last position in the podium. Now the interesting thing is that Pedro pitting a lap earlier will minimize the amount of time he'll be on bad tires, but he may be locked into the 4-stop strategy now. Rebuilds and Railgun likely jumping on to something closer to 3-stop strategy, we think. 62%. No! That's the only interesting story, and the only interesting story in the race is gone. Well, Rebuilds and Railgun will both jump into the pits this time, but that was the only interesting story in this race, and it's now over. So, yeah. So much for that. Coming into the party right now is Cars Matthew. Gonna wait just a bit, because it seems like he's not quite in the Xbox chat. He might still be in game chat at the moment, as our leaders are now coming out of pit lane. And it looks like that Dodge has elected Rebirth Quint has pitted as well now. So Pedro going to try and rush up right alongside his teammates here. Matthews, can you hear me? Can you include your audio in the Xbox party? In the party, there will be a little box, a little checkbox that will say, include my audio. Can you hit that? All right. Matthews, you look like you had a fantastic run going, but you're out of the race early. What took you out? Ah, okay. That's frustrating. Do you have anything else you want to say? Well, we turn our focus back to the race here. Manuel Pedro, by virtue of stopping 1 lap earlier than his teammates, has now ended up ahead of both Cars Rebuilt and Les Railgun. Rebuilt and Railgun right on top of each other for second and third. So Pedro has track position, but in a slightly less ideal strategy position right now. And with the only Ferrari out of the race early on, we know that is going to be a Ford 1-2-3 finish. Even if one of these Ford GT drivers crash, they would have the sheer outright pace to run by the rest of the field without issue here. Ah! Okay, gotcha. Oh, okay. Understood. I'm sorry that happened to you, mate. What else will you be racing in going forward? What other series will you race in? Portuguese? Uno momento. Em quais outras séries você vai correr? What other series will you be racing in? Em quais outras séries você vai correr? Okay. Obrigado. Thank you for jumping in. Yeah. Goodbye. Adios. I'm sorry, mate. I'm sorry. I don't speak Portuguese I don't ever speak Portuguese, honestly. I'm sorry, mate. I'm trying to use a translate. Alright, I'll let you go, mate, okay? Yeah, goodbye. Alright, well, that was our attempt at interviewing and talking with Carr Matthews. Is basically nothing has really been developing on the track since. The gap that Manuel Pedro had over Carr Rebuilds and Les Railgun has shrunken down over our last few laps, though. Les Railgun seems to be falling off a bit from Carr Rebuilds and Manuel Pedro right now. We're likely going to see a fight for this top spot momentarily here. Again, Manuel Pedro basically on the back foot now when it comes to tire strat. He has the track position, but not for long. It does seem like Carr Rebuilds, your pole sitter, has his number, has the number of all of his teammates here tonight. It may have to come down to time penalties if they want to take this win away from him. As we look at the penalty counters right now, 2 seconds for Carr Rebuilds, 4.6 for Manuel Pedro, Les Railgun 1.5 seconds, Temper Chip 3.8 seconds, Breezy Rain 1.4, Asian Diesel 3 seconds, Rebirth Quint 0.9 seconds of time penalties right now. So the entire field, as small as it is, all of them have earned time penalties throughout this race here. Les Railgun, despite being the champion, Les Railgun does not seem to have the outright pace of his teammates, Rebuilds and Pedro, right now, it seems. It does seem that these two are a lot racer and a lot faster. Ooh, Carr Rebuilds trying to get the switch back here, going through the not quite hairpin, washes out wide, coming onto the back straightaway, but that gives him plenty of time to get the traction down on those tires. Pedro back on the inside. Rebuilds trying to make the outside line work there in a dead heat as they go down the back straightaway. Who's going to go deeper under braking this time by? Looks like it's the 55. So Pedro holds onto the top spot for just a little longer, and Rebuilds has a bit of a bobble in the nose of the car as he goes through that chicane. But now back down the second of the two back straightaways. Pedro defends on the inside. Rebuilds goes on the outside. Ooh, Pedro slides wide, though, coming past the apex. He's vulnerable. He's got the outside line that should, in theory, give him good traction and good run down. But Rebuilds, can he cut him off in the braking zone? He can't. They're still side by side. Someone has to break to make a little bit of contact, and Rebuilds is sideways. And Pedro goes back by. And now all of a sudden, Railgun is back here. Pedro and Rebuilds still side by side. As they go to the hotel section, and they're all sorts of sideways and slamming doors on each other. And Carr Rebuilds finally muscles his way by Pedro. Last corner now. Our Ford GTs, 1, 2, 3 right now. Well, we know that there's no team orders to hold back. This is a legitimate knife fight here between the Ford GT trio. It does look like Car Rebuilds is the one that has just got their number in terms of pace and racecraft, as now Manuel Pedro is under threat from Les Railgun. And Pedro completely botched the braking zone that time by. He saw all sorts of sideways coming out. Did he put on soft tires or something? No, he's got to be on the mediums. He's just missing corners, legitimately it seems. So the entire field seems to be on roughly the same strategy. And now Les Railgun trying to force his way by Pedro here. He's got him now. Again, reminder, Pedro pitted a lap earlier than these other two Ford GTs. Got him to track position, but the tire life and the overall racecraft just did not seem to be there, and he's already fallen back to third. And now Rebuilds is rushing off into the distance. Pedro trying to set himself up for a dive here, going into the braking zone. Bit of a slide. He's going to go deep. Can he make it stick? He does make it stick. And Pedro back in front of Railgun, sliding the rear of his car all over Railgun's front bumper. Railgun very nearly hits that outside wall. And while these two are fighting, Rebuilds just vanishes off into the distance. Down the start-finish straightaway again. So Pedro back in front of Railgun, but for how long? We know his tires are going to go off first, and he just doesn't seem to have quite the grip in the rears. You can see him drifting the rear end out there through turns 3 and 4, and Railgun just goes right by virtue of having a smoother line, carrying more speed into the following braking zone. Pedro tries to go deep, tries to lunge it up back alongside, but can't make it stick. Rebuilds may have made a bit of a mistake there. He's lost some ground to this duo. So now Railgun is going to have a draft on Rebuilds. Is it going to be enough for him to try and make a dive bomb under braking for the lead of this race? Do you go for it? Railgun does not go for it. Not this time, at least. Rebuilds very wide coming out of that chicane, and now here comes Pedro looking to the outside of Railgun. Railgun has the draft on Rebuilds though, and he'll use the draft to pull back ahead of Pedro, so Pedro won't be too much of an issue from this time. 67 gets into the 6s, his rear diffuser pushes the 6 wide, and the process that backs the 67 up, and now here comes that 55 of Pedro back to the outside, neck and neck between the two. Pedro trying to wrap around the outside, and he does it again! But Railgun says, I'm not having that. He gives Pedro a bit of a shove, knocks him offline, and Rebuilds completely missed the braking zone as well. All three of them right on top of each other, and no one can seem to figure out what to do. Well, despite not really having anything serious to fight for, all three of these drivers are really getting elbows out for honor and glory, but I do have to wonder if if they keep all racing like this, it may just come down to time penalties that will decide this race in the end. So it is Rebuilds, Pedro, and Railgun in that order. We're expecting Pedro will be paying around lap 23 to 24. Rebuilds and Railgun will be paying either lap 24 or 25. Pedro has a bit of a run. He's setting up on Rebuilds now. So Pedro's finding a bit of a second wind. Power down now, the chicane. Now down the second back straightaway once again. Rebuilds runs a defensive inside line. Pedro right there behind. And now Pedro looks to the outside, trying to set himself up for a more normal, traditional line, but he gets hit from behind by Railgun. Railgun forces him wide again. That will be all it takes for Rebuilds to hold on to his position here. Has it stabilized out now? It may have finally stabilized out a bit between these drivers. Ooh, but with a big lunge like that from Pedro on Rebuilds, it's not going to help him very much. He is still, though, right behind Rebuilds as they go down the first of the two back straightaways, as Pedro going to try another lunge in the braking zone going into the chicane. Chicane's not really an ideal overtaking spot, but it can be made to work. Looks to the inside, thinks better of it's not going to commit to it. Not a good exit by Pedro. So Rebuilds can probably run his normal line, but no, Rebuilds is going to insist on running the defensive line again. Now he runs a little bit wide to have a more traditional entry into the corner. Pedro keeps the car about a third of a car width closer down, but that's killing his speed and killing his exit momentum in the process. So he's not really in a position to do anything back against Rebuilds here. Ooh, did he get alongside? He tried to get alongside, but Rebuild slammed the door the last possible second there. So what we're going to do, we're going to have to take a Twitch mandated ad break here. We're going to ride for a full lap on board with Les Railgun as he watches his teammates fight ahead of him. We'll be back momentarily at Yas Marina. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Yas Marina here. So it seems pretty obvious to me that Manuel Pedro is going to abort on the 3-stop strategy. He's going to go on the 4-stop strategy. He is paying once every 11 laps by the looks of it, while Rebuilds and Railgun are paying closer to once every 12 laps. So Pedro trying to balance tire life and speed with an extra pit stop. I don't know if Pedro is going to have the speed to make something of it, but with Railgun and Pedro having fought as long as they did, I think Rebuilds will be in a position that he'll be running in clean air for so long it won't really matter. Pedro is going to end up just alongside Agent Diesel, I think. Actually, just behind Agent Diesel. So he may actually have to fight someone who's not a 4GT for the first time today. Might be the only driver in the 4GT camp who's not going to be fighting a 4GT at any point in this running. But again, we believe that everyone except Pedro is on the 3-stop strategy. We think Pedro is swapping over to a 4-stop strategy now. And with 16 laps to go, potentially Pedro could throw on the soft tires now, burn 8 laps on the softs, pit, throw on soft tires again, and burn 8 more laps to the checkers. But he is now an entire pit stop behind, and we saw Lil Kid Suave, who can't be in the Porsche Cup Series, try this strategy last night for a podium shot. It did not work out. He did not have the speed. Might Pedro have the speed, though, especially considering he wouldn't be worried about worn-out mediums nearly as much as Rebuilt or Railgun is. I'm sorry, it's 20. I said there was 16. There's 26 laps left. Tempered Chip and Breezy Rain pit this lap, but Rebuilds and Railgun will stay out a little bit longer. Again, we know that those two are on the 3-stop strategy. Pedro clears Diesel as if Diesel is pretty much standing still, it seems. The difference in speed between the 4GTs and everyone else in Sector 3 is so incredibly huge. I know the 4GT drivers are like, oh, the Chevys will be really good here, but it is very obvious that, no, they are not very good here whatsoever. Granted, their best driver did not show up for tonight's race, but those Chevys have nothing compared to what those 4GTs have tonight. Nobody has anything for those 4GTs except for Cars Matthew, and he has already dropped out of the event, sadly. So Pedro runs 41 seconds behind the duo of Rebuilt and Railgun right now. We are expecting Rebuilt and Railgun to pit not this lap, but the lap after this one. We're going to be dealing with a little bit more tire fall off here near the very end. But again, we believe that Pedro is on the 4-stop on the 4-stop strategy, and Rebuilt and Railgun on the 3-stop. So Pedro's 3rd stop would be on lap 33. And then Rebuilds and Railgun's final stop would be on lap 36 or 37. And after he makes his 3rd stop, Pedro can probably throw on the soft tires, go really aggressively for about 8 laps, then pit again around lap 39 or so. 39-40. Throw on those soft tires and go aggressive to the end again. But I don't think that Pedro has the speed to outrun an entire pit stop, when a pit stop basically puts you 40 seconds behind. Railgun not keeping any time up with Rebuilds, though. And we look at the time penalties. Rebuilds does have more penalties than Railgun, but not so much that Railgun can just let the race win come to him. And Pedro with nearly 10 seconds of time penalties. Teammates Tempered Chip and Breezy Rain have also been going at it, but if it's a fight for 5th and 6th, and there's not really a lot on the line, not even a podium on the line. They're just kind of having a wacky little Sunday drive between the two of them. Rebirth Quint has actually ended up ahead of this duo right now. He's on some very worn-out tires right now, but Quint is doing a good job bringing everything through. He might be able to bring that Sakura Dodge to a 4th place result, depending on how the end of this race goes. We'll quickly look at the tire life of our lead duo. 66% on the rear tires for rebuilds here. For Railgun, who is in second, he is at 65, almost only now at 66%. You can see the gap rapidly closing down, but not enough for Railgun to seriously have a shot at rebuilds here. It does seem like Railgun's a little bit better at managing his tires, but rebuilds has the speed. He's able to utilize that speed to open up the gap, and while the gap closes down, it's only closing in the final sector on the last lap before they pit. That's just not enough for Railgun to really do anything with. Okay, so now the question is, where is Manuel Pedro going to be in relation to this duo? Because again, Manuel Pedro still has 2 more stops to make. Rebuilds and Railgun only have 1 more. So Pedro needs to be well clear of his Ford GT teammates here. That is not looking likely. He's just now coming through the final corner, and Rebuilds and Railgun are already on the pit lane exit road, going under turn number 1 and coming up to turn 2. There's Pedro on the outside. Oh my goodness, is Pedro going to get back ahead of him again?